the Super Bowl, the satisfaction and how you got to this point.
You know, that's just how the league goes. You're not going to have a great year every year unless you're the Patriots.
I just like winning.
It doesn't matter. We'll be ready for whoever steps foot in this house.
So we aspired to be here. They aspired to be here, and so here we are.
This ain't, we still got one more.
Everyone thinks we suck and can't win any games, so we'll see.
It's the best Sunday of the season. The four best teams, and this year, the four highest scoring offenses. And tons of championship experience to break it down. Our Hall of Famer, Bill Polian, Darren Woodson, Teddy Bruschi. I'm Susie Kolber. Huge games to get to, but first we have some breaking news, and this coming out of Dallas, where they have announced that offensive coordinator Scott Linehan will not be back for next season. Here's a statement just released by head coach Jason Garrett. Quote, "This was not an easy decision because of how highly we regard Scott Linehan as a football coach and as a person. This was very much a mutual decision, and there was a great deal of common ground and shared understanding between both of us during our meetings. Scott has had an incredibly positive impact on our football team. He has been instrumental in the development and success of a significant number of our veteran and younger players. He is an outstanding football coach, a great friend, and we wish him and his family nothing but the absolute best moving forward." So again, offensive coordinator Scott Linehan will not return for the Cowboys. What's your initial reaction there?
Well, this is you're split in Dallas. You go to Dallas and all you hear about is the conversations about Scott Linehan and the job that he's done. And half the people want him out and half the other people want to keep him around. But this has been a conversation for a number of years because of the growth of Dak Prescott. And this team continues to be stalemated in that, and as far as that growth. We want to see, and not only myself, but everyone in Dallas wants to see Dak Prescott grow at the quarterback position. And I think they need to bring someone else in. I think we've seen this flavor with Scott Linehan. Now it's time to change it up and see what else is out there and see if Dak can grow with that.
Well, and from afar seeing this, I know Darren's got the Dallas perspective, and that's unique, but it seems like that side of the ball, and I'm watching C.J. Henderson, I'm watching Todd Gurley run up and down on the field on them. So that's the lasting impression. That's the last thought you have as a coaching staff, as players. It's like, how do we get that fixed for the next time we have to possibly run into the Los Angeles Rams? This is the offensive side of the ball that they've decided to fix. So maybe this was something that needed to be done.
Yeah, don't forget, things that don't need fixing are Zeke,
Right.
Amari Cooper. Tight end needs fixing, but that's personnel. And the offensive line, when they're healthy and they get the center back this next year, that doesn't need much fixing. So who does that leave? Dak.
Yeah.
So look for a guy who could develop Dak, as you said at the outset.
Yeah, and interesting the timing, and that it just so happens that the four teams left are the top four scoring teams, which means there's a lot of coaching talent still out there too, and other coaches are still trying to build their staff, so it'd be interesting to see who they're going to turn to. So with that said, let's talk about championship weekend, Teddy.
And let's get to the day before, Susie.
Heck yeah, great quarterback matchup. We're going to start here in the AFC. 41-year-old Tom Brady, 23-year-old Patrick Mahomes. Their 18-year age gap will be the largest ever between opposing quarterbacks. Chiefs are eyeing their first Super Bowl appearance since winning Super Bowl IV in '69. KC has the NFL's third longest active drought without a Super Bowl or NFL championship appearance. And New England looks to become the first team to return to the Super Bowl the year after losing in the game since the '93 Bills. The '72 Dolphins are the last to win a Super Bowl the year after losing one. As we say hi to Jeff Darlington, who joins us from KC. So, Jeff, I laughed when I read this line on NFL.com. Father Time versus Mother Nature. Will Tommy get frostbite? So much talk about the weather. What's the latest outlook?
Well, I'll tell you right now, I'm standing in the tunnel that leads out to the field where players do take the field, and we're outside, and it's about 40 degrees, very comfortable. And actually, on Sunday, after threats of an Arctic blast that we've heard about all week, it seems like it should be just a little bit colder than it is right now. Really, the high 20s. The feels like temperature probably will drop down to about 17 around kickoff, but generally not a lot of wind, no precipitation in the forecast, so really just playoff football, Susie. Nothing really too bad.
Okay, weather non-factor. Then now there's this. The Patriots are famous for keying into one thing their opponent does well and trying to take it away. How is Patrick Mahomes preparing for that?
Well, Susie, Patrick Mahomes was asked that very question yesterday during his news conference, and he said the beauty of this Chiefs offense is that he does have so many weapons. He'll have his choice, a plethora of guys to pick from. Now, we know the likely names of Travis Kelce. We got Tyreek Hill and the Cheetah out there who will always be knocking the top off the defensive backfield. But Sammy Watkins, potentially the X factor in this game. Watkins was able to come back and play against the Colts last week and really did play a bulk of that game after missing action since week 11 with a foot injury. By adding Watkins in there, if the Patriots do decide to take away, whether it's Hill, whether it's Kelce, they still have that one guy in Watkins who can kind of maybe play the middle of the field. The one thing we should point toward is that the teams that have been effective against Patrick Mahomes have often been cover zero situations where they're in an all-out blitz against him, trying to get the ball out as fast as possible, not letting him leave the pocket. If the Patriots were to try something like that again, look for Watkins as being the guy that could potentially help Mahomes, a key player here that we should certainly be watching going into this game.
Okay, Jeff, we'll keep an eye out for that. And that's why the Patriots are always in the postseason, because you never know what they're coming with. So Week 6 is a long time ago, Teddy. Right. Patriots secondary isn't the same, and this version, of KC's offense isn't exactly the same. So how do you see the key to slowing them down?
Well, you can see the philosophy on what they were thinking in terms of how they were defending Patrick Mahomes and his wide receivers in the first matchup. It was about pass route disruption. They wanted to throw off the timing. And there's Kyle Van Noy, who's the fourth rusher that actually gets a shot onto Travis Kelce before he eyes Mahomes, and then late rush, gets a pressure, forces a minimum gain. So that's what they want. It's an old plan that's been utilized many times. This time it's Dante Hightower. They know in the red area it's going to be Travis Kelce. He then is going to join the rush late. Mahomes will try to extend it. You hope to get pressure on him like that, and it forces a poorly thrown ball into triple coverage like that. The Arizona Cardinals try to do the same thing. Cheetah's right there. He's lined up close. They're using Dayon Buchanan to hit him, then enter the rush to take Patrick Mahomes off his first read and give your rush maybe half a second more. And then coverage variations. Both backers on the back. The one that goes to the back, you take him. Hightower looks back to the middle to help on Kelce, and he steals one off of Patrick Mahomes there. Just so many multiple looks. Key players will be Elandon Roberts, will be Dante Hightower, Kyle Van Noy, but they want to throw off the timing. If Sammy Watkins beats them, they'll take it. But they just don't want to see the Cheetah on one of those 1-2 play drives, and it's 60, 70 yards down the field, and it only took 30 seconds.
So in Week 6, we know Mahomes had his worst half of the season, 2 interceptions, no touchdowns. Then, of course, in the second half, he came back with 4. But how does Andy Reid get him off to a fast start?
Run, run, run. Number one, they got to run the ball with the backs. But secondly, they need to get Tyreek Hill at least 15 touches. That means some of those touches are going to have to come in the run game. And the way to disrupt the Patriots' very, very subtle changes that they make on defense is to move Tyreek around. He makes the linebackers move and therefore puts the advantage back in Kansas City's hand.
And then for his career, Travis Kelce, 4 career games, the Patriots have done a pretty good job of containing him. Yeah. How have they done that?
Well, again, Teddy just showed it on the tape. They're getting a reroute at the line of scrimmage. They're making them, they're knocking off the timing at the same time. But there's going to be opportunities for Travis Kelce and Andy Reid, for Andy Reid to move him around a little bit, find the one-on-one matchups that he likes. And it's going to, if he finds the matchups that he wants with McCourty or Patrick Chung in one-on-one situations, that's the ones he's going to like, and that's when they're going to go at Travis
Especially
Kelce.
Early in the game. The term is defensively survive the script. Survive the script of Andy Reid. 2 years ago in the opener, Travis Kelce was in the backfield. He played quarterback. Alex Smith, they shifted, those type of things. So they're going to get a look at what Andy Reid was thinking all this week, preparing, and then they'll have to sideline adjust.
Kelce has to move. By that I mean motion. And Tyreek has to move. They have to make the Patriots declare what they're doing.
Yeah. Right, yeah. Survive the script, and also, will Andy Reid run the ball?
That is the key. That's the question. Will he run the ball?
Run to win.
Okay, later, the Chiefs pass rushers getting after Brady. We'll do the other side of the ball in that game. also ahead. On today's edition of NFL Live, Fridays mean tape off, but this week we take you back for a best of edition. We'll call it Flashback Friday. Who did it best this season? Speaking of flashbacks, Marcus Peters will get a rematch with Sean Payton after all, with a Super Bowl bid on the line. We'll hear from both.
We really like that matchup a lot.
I tell him keep talking it, and I hope you see me soon. You feel me? And then we're going to have a good little, nice little bowl of gumbo together.
The last time the Saints and Rams met, the Rams looked unstoppable. They were 8-0, but the Saints earned that huge win in Week 9. Michael Thomas torched Marcus Peters, who exchanged jabs with Peyton. They've downplayed it since.
I see y'all trying to make it to be something that is not, man. Just all respect to Sean Payton and what he does. Like I say, during the game, things was happening. But I just love the fact that he's a competitor. When I was coming out and draft and stuff, it was the same way, fiery energy when I was meeting with him and things like that. So it wasn't nothing to be disrespectful or anything like that. I was pissed off. I didn't have the game that I wanted to have.
He's someone that we came close to drafting him. The year we took Andrus, one of our goals going into that draft was Pete and Peters. And that's the truth. So I have great respect for him, and it was all good.
Thomas set a franchise record with 211 receiving yards in Week 9 against L.A., doing most of his damage against Peters. NFL Next Gen Stats, powered by AWS, tells us that Thomas had 127 receiving yards when Peters was the nearest defender. That's the most receiving yards Thomas has had against any one defender this season, and it's the most Peters has allowed. Darren, what went wrong for Marcus Peters in Week 9? And remember, Aqib Talib was out injured. He'll be back. And I'm sure that changes things.
And that's going to change things a lot with Aqib Talib coming back. But when you look at Michael Thomas, you have to look at Drew Brees as well. And Drew Brees allowing him to throw receivers open and put the ball where he wants to. But this is a violent, we've said it a million times, a violent route runner here in Michael Thomas. And they get him off the press, they get him off the line of scrimmage. Great coverage by Marcus Peters. But you got a three-way go by Michael Thomas here. Peters is right there to make this play. Great throw by Drew Brees. Hey, sometimes good offense beats good defense. And now Marcus Peters just was not ready in his last drive here. Had his eyes back. He got side to side here, and then he got stacked. And once you get stacked by Michael Thomas, he's going to win that ball game, that matchup. And that's what happened there. You're going to see this matchup throughout the game, off and on. But again, it's not just the man-to-man. It's the ability for Drew Brees to manipulate the zone with his eyes, move players around, and Michael Thomas will find that sweet spot in the zone coverage when it's open. That's just pitching catch. That's just moving the change. You have to stop not only Michael Thomas, but you better stop Drew Brees and make him move around in that pocket as well.
And the one thing Sean Payton said about Michael Thomas also when he was talking about the draft in that press conference, a reason why we liked Michael Thomas before we drafted him so much is because he's such a great catch and run receiver. And the yards after catch are so good. I've been stressing fundamentals all week. Tackle the guy. Tackle the guy after he catches it, and that'll help.
Easier said than done. I broadcast that game for ESPN Radio. And Michael Thomas, first of all, is a big, powerful, physical receiver. Little corners just have a hard time with him, number one. Number two, his catch radius is outstanding. He really goes out and gets the ball. So even though you think you have him covered, Drew will deliver the ball, and he goes out there and gets it. Three, if you travel with him, you're going to get three-way goes because they'll move him in such a way that they'll get you aligned in a three-way go. With Talib there, I doubt they'll travel somebody with him. I think they'll probably keep them lined up.
The numbers to drive home that point. Since Talib's return from injury, the Rams have played zone coverage on 64% of pass plays. So since Week 13, that's sixth in the NFL. So that's a big difference in philosophy then, right?
Especially watching the last two games on tape. There's a lot more zone.
Okay, so we know that the Saints' offensive line is fully intact, not fully healthy, though. So the Saints, that run game, Teddy, what do you do against that?
I'll tell you, there's, early this season, Susie, we used words like undisciplined about the Ram defense, and we talked about their defensive line with Sue and Donald, where all they did was they want to get sacks. I think something clicked. I think something clicked with these players. They know the Super Bowl's near. Now it's time to stop the run because they knew they had to do it last week, and now they got to do it again this week. If they know they got to earn the right to rush the passer. I think something's going on in that D-line meeting room where Sue, the big game he had last week in terms of stopping the run, that has a possibility of continuing.
Right, that's a point of pride, right, for a defense. Stop the run.
And it's something, maybe you got some incentives in your contract. You're not worried about it in the regular season.
Yes.
Sue was missing in action for about the last 7 weeks. Yes, they found him last week.
Yeah.
And as long as he's there stopping the run, then Donald can do his thing, which is movement. Sue is stack him. Donald is movement. If they work together, they got a good group going.
I think he accepted the challenge because all week long, the talking heads like ourselves, we've sat up here and said last week, the Cowboys are going to dominate them. Zeke's going to have over 130 yards rushing. It was a challenge. And I guarantee you, Sean McVay challenged Sue to say, hey, this is the reason we brought you in here. Stop the run. Do your job. And he absolutely did his job.
We talked about how all those personalities, they got to gel somehow, some way on defense for the Los Angeles Rams. I mean, all the way back to the offseason when they're signing all of these free agents, they all got to come together because there's a handful of them. You got your money, but there's one thing that they all want. And maybe that's coming together this week.
But then there's also a drastic difference there seems in Breeze when he's under pressure or he isn't.
Well, because Breeze, if he's pressured up the middle, really has a hard time finding a lane. Unger is under the weather. Pete is a little bit under the weather. If Sue can have a big game, and Donald will, you got to double Donald. You can't let him run free. So Sue is the real factor. They got to block him, and if they don't, it'll be a long day.
Pete with a surgically repaired hand. He's playing with some pain, but that's going to be a pretty awesome matchup to watch throughout the game. Later, Gurley against the Saints. Tough run D. There's so many great matchups in these games. Still to come, more Rams Saints. This time, we're going to focus on the creativity of the coaches. Which coach has the edge?